Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Our job is to take massive piles of source material articles, research, studio notes, and distill it into the absolute sharpest, most insightful conversation possible.
We're basically giving you the shortcut to genuine knowledge, delivered with just enough personality to make it all stick.
And today, we are cracking the vault on one of the most consistently stylish and, I think, deceptively complex film franchises in modern cinema.
We're talking about Oceans. Our mission today is to trace this whole series from its foundational, pretty low-stakes Rat Pack origins back in 1960.
Right, and then track the massive high roller standard set by Steven Soderbergh's trilogy.
And then we'll analyze how the franchise is attempting to, plot its course into the future.
At the heart of this deep dive, for me, is a central tension. How did Soderbergh take a pretty lightweight, almost leisurely 1960 comedy and transform it into something that feels like the ultimate definition of modern cool?
Exactly. We want to understand the artistic execution, the meticulous technical and aesthetic standards that make his trilogy feel genuinely untouchable.
Maybe even impossible to replicate in today's highly calculated studio landscape.
It's a study in cinematic architecture, really. We're going beyond just the plots to analyze the craftsmanship.
Things like the mathematical precision of the screenwriting,
The revolutionary use of music, and that unique directorial identity that Soderbergh imprinted on the whole affair.
So for you, the listener, this isn't just a breakdown of who robbed whom.
No, it's an answer to why these films endure as the absolute gold standard of the caper genre.
Okay, let's unpack this history then, starting with the source material. The 1960 film, Ocean's 11.
Directed by Louis Milestone, who is a highly regarded veteran director.
But the movie's real gravity wasn't the direction, was it? It was the raw, unadulterated star power on screen.
That's absolutely right. The film was conceived purely as a star vehicle for the most famous, most charismatic group of performers in the world at that time.
The legendary Rat Pack.
You had Frank Sinatra as the leader, Danny Ocean, alongside Dean Martin, Sammy Davis Jr., and Peter Lawford.
And Joey Bishop rounded out the team. He played the straight man and was, interestingly, pretty crucial in the plot.
He was. He's the one who recruits the rest of the crew 10 of his old army buddies to get them to that crucial number 11.
The concept of the heist itself sounds incredibly ambitious, at least on paper.
It really does.
They weren't focused on one jewel or one main vault. They were simultaneously targeting 5 of the largest casinos in Las Vegas.
They aimed high on volume, if not on intricate plotting. The 5 targets were the Sahara, the Riviera, the Sands, the Flamingo, and the Desert Inn.
The logistics of that. Hitting 5 major casinos on New Year's Eve, essentially disabling the city's ability to manage its money. That's a grand idea.
It's huge. But the way they pulled it off, or rather the way the actors pulled off making the movie, that really defines why the 1960 version has such a distinct, almost lackadaisical energy.
Totally different from the 2001 film.
Completely. And the production anecdote is just, it's crucial context here.
Oh, absolutely. The fact that they were performing every night.
Right. The Rat Pack wasn't just in Vegas to film. They were there because they were headlining shows. They had full nightly performance schedules, sometimes 2 shows a night.
So according to contemporary reports, like commentary from Frank Sinatra Jr., they were shooting their scenes during the off hours.
Yeah, often starting filming between 3 a.m. and dawn.
Shooting that late after working all evening. That must have created an entirely unique, low-stakes atmosphere on set, right?
It was almost certainly chaotic, and, it certainly didn't prioritize high cinematic tension.
Can't imagine.
The source material suggests this was less about making a tightly plotted heist movie and more about finding a project where these friends could just hang out, work together, and essentially capture their real-life camaraderie on screen.
That 3 a.m. energy is exactly what critics picked up on.
It is. The critical reception back then was decidedly mixed. Critics, they universally acknowledged the charm and the magnetism of the cast.
But they also frequently pointed out the lack of stakes, the loose script, and the overall feeling that the film was closer to a televised comedy special than a true crime caper.
They relied entirely on the wisecracks and the chemistry. The New York Times critic at the time, Bosley Crowder, a really prominent voice, he zeroed in on the lack of moral urgency.
What does he say?
He complained that the film failed to establish any sense of consequence or, difficulty in robbing 5 casinos. He felt that because the stars were so charming, the audience never internalized that they had actually done anything wrong.
And when you don't feel the moral weight of it, the ending just feels strange.
Well, yeah, the part where they ultimately lose the money because it's accidentally cremated in a coffin.
It feels less like a tragedy and more like a bizarre punchline.
It was ironic and ghoulish, as Crowther put it, but ultimately hollow because the film never established the actual danger of the crime in the first place.
So the primary appeal was just getting to watch these cool people hang out.
It was the access it granted the audience to these famous, cool people enjoying themselves in a glamorous setting.
Despite the lukewarm narrative reception, though, the 1960 film cemented two essential pillars that Steven Soderbergh would later build upon.
Absolutely. First, it established Danny Ocean as the smooth, charismatic criminal leader.
And second, and this is maybe more important for the cultural legacy, it painted Las Vegas as this glamorous, high-stakes, exclusive adult playground.
Right. Even the iconic opening, that animated title sequence designed by the legendary Saul Bass, contributed to this polished aesthetic.
It created a specific cultural template.
A template of sophisticated crime set against bright lights, and that became the foundation for the entire modern franchise.
And that template lay dormant for 41 years.
Until 2001.
And when Steven Soderbergh decided to resurrect it, it was a massive cultural event. Soderbergh was already a massively versatile and respected filmmaker.
Oh, for sure. The director of indie darlings like Sex, Lies, and Videotape, but also the Oscar-winning epic Traffic.
So he brought that serious artistic pedigree to this high-concept blockbuster.
And the remake of Ocean's 11 was an immediate, unqualified commercial success.
The numbers were huge.
It grossed $450 million worldwide. It set what we now recognize as the high roller standard for the modern heist film. It was the moment the franchise truly became a franchise.
I think we have to start by discussing the thematic shift, because Soderbergh's films fundamentally change the context of the crime.
They do. They elevate the heist into something almost heroic. It fits right into that criminal hero mold that we all accept today.
This figure is so fascinating. The idea of the noble robber goes back centuries.
It traces itself clearly through the Robin Hood mythos, for sure. We, as an audience, get immense satisfaction from watching skilled, charismatic people break the rules.
Especially if they're doing it against someone we perceive as worse than they are.
Exactly. And in modern media, the criminal hero often embodies this discontentment, fighting against the overwhelming power of the system, the machine.
And in the world of Ocean's 11, the crew embodies this perfectly.
Their target, Terry Benedict, the casino magnate, represents unchecked corporate authoritarianism and ruthlessness.
So by targeting his money and his ego, Danny Ocean and his crew are positioned as the noble robbers.
They're not just stealing cash, they're striking a blow against a tyrannical power structure. The audience actively cheers for the chaos they create. We experience catharsis through their challenge to the establishment.
But Soderbergh didn't just rely on the plot. He infused the film with his own unique technical flair and identity.
And that's the core of why these films feel so different from other blockbusters.
He's such a unique filmmaker. He can transition seamlessly from raw, gritty, independent cinema to these highly stylized studio pictures.
But he brought that independent rigor with him. And one of his most distinctive practices is his use of pseudonyms.
Right. He famously avoids the possessory credit, the Steven Soderbergh film, which in Hollywood is a huge marker of status and ego.
Instead, he uses aliases for cinematography and editing. He credits cinematography to Peter Andrews, which is his father's name.
And editing to Mary Ann Bernard, his mother's name.
And this is far more than a quirk or a gesture. It's a deliberate effort to resist the standard Hollywood branding model that demands the director be the singular, possessory brand identity.
It's like he's decentering himself.
By stepping back and letting his work speak for itself through these aliases, he manages to handle three major roles: director, cinematographer, and editor, without the film becoming purely a massive ego project. It let him maintain an art house sensibility within a blockbuster structure.
And his aesthetic choices were radical for his studio picture. I was fascinated to learn about his original vision for the look of the film.
He initially wanted to shoot Ocean's 11 entirely in black and white.
Can you imagine that?
Yeah.
A vibrant, high-energy Las Vegas heist movie in monochrome?
Warner Brothers vetoed it, or, well, they offered a compromise. He could shoot in black and white only if he drastically reduced the film's cost.
So he chose the color route, which commercially was probably the wise choice.
I think so. It allowed the neon lights and the glamour of the casinos to really pop.
But that black and white thought process hints at his desire to invoke that classic golden age cinema feel, something less concerned with hyperrealism and more with pure, stylized cool.
Precisely. He was trying to bridge that gap between the nostalgic atmosphere of the 1960 original and the modern visual language of the early 2000s.
And you cannot discuss the untouchable standard without addressing the cast.
Yeah.
The movie star wattage assembled here is, frankly, unbelievable.
Insane. George Clooney as Danny Ocean, Brad Pitt as Rusty Ryan, Matt Damon as Linus Caldwell, Bernie Mac as Frank Catton, and Julia Roberts as Tess Ocean.
An ensemble built of the most bankable names in Hollywood.
All of whom bought into Soderbergh's vision. They were willing to take secondary roles and become part of a large, fluid team, rather than demanding the sole spotlight.
And that collective swagger instantly positioned them as the coolest criminals on Earth.
No question.
Before we get into the breakdown of the first film's structure, let's quickly track how Soderbergh maintained that standard across the sequels. Because after getting $160 million in The Girl, the stakes had to change drastically for the next two films.
They absolutely did. The success of the first film meant the sequels needed a bigger, broader canvas. So Ocean's 12 in 2004, it essentially begins with a massive debt looming over the crew.
Right. Terry Benedict is back.
Still smarting from the humiliation, he hunts them all down and demands the $160 million back, plus interest. The total repayment needed was $197 million.
Which forces the crew into this desperate pan-European caper.
They're trying to hit targets in Amsterdam, Rome, and Paris to raise the funds before Benedict catches up.
This film introduced a formidable rival who really upped the intellectual ante of the heists.
Francois Toulour, the Night Fox.
Played by Vincent Cassel.
And he's not motivated by money, but by pride and ego. He's a wealthy French baron and master thief who challenges the Ocean's crew because his mentor suggested that Danny Ocean might be the superior criminal.
And that competition provides the structure for the film.
Right. It's centered around stealing the legendary Imperial Coronation Fabergé egg, and it forces Danny and Rusty to rethink their entire approach.
And this is the movie famous for its highly meta elements, where the film acknowledges its own stars.
The meta element is just delightful. Due to complications in the plan, Tess Ocean is forced to impersonate the actress Julia Roberts.
Who, of course, she resembles.
Which leads to this brilliantly self-aware sequence where she encounters a real-life Bruce Willis, who is just confused about why Julia Roberts is behaving so strangely in Rome.
It's a moment that could have shattered the fourth wall, but Soderbergh makes it work because the entire film is already operating with such a high level of self-aware cool.
It really solidifies that the entire crew, and by extension the film, is built on the art of the con. The ultimate resolution involves that famous switcheroo, facilitated by Linus's mother.
A completely unexpected element.
Totally. They faked their arrest and released themselves, having already secured the real Fabergé egg.
And that sets up Ocean's 13 in 2007, which brought them back to Las Vegas.
But not for money.
For pure, unadulterated revenge.
This was the most personal film of the trilogy. Willie Bank, played by Al Pacino, he double-crosses the financier of the original heist, Ruben Tishkoff.
And that betrayal leads to Ruben suffering a massive heart attack.
Right. When the crew sees their friend almost killed, the stakes immediately become about loyalty and vengeance.
So their plan against Bank's new casino, the Bank, had to be truly outlandish to guarantee his financial ruin.
It was an incredible escalation of the cons. They weren't just stealing money, they were aiming to destroy the casino's reputation and financial stability on opening night.
And this involved rigging every single game.
From the slot machines to the tables, triggering a fake yet believable earthquake to ruin the structural integrity and ensuring the hotel lost its 5-diamond review.
And the ultimate sign of their desperation and commitment to revenge was having to partner with their arch nemesis.
Terry Benedict.
Yeah. Out of mutual hatred for Willie Bank, they reluctantly recruit Benedict, who provides the massive amount of capital necessary to execute the plan.
They are still the noble criminals, but now they are fighting a common greater enemy. And that finale expanded the team to nearly 16 associates, just proving their dedication to the long con.
Now we get to the granular details of why the 2001 film is an untouchable masterpiece of the genre. The artful execution, specifically the structural backbone.
It's incredible.
It feels so breezy and effortless. But the Ted Griffin screenplay is almost mathematically precise.
This precision is why understanding narrative theory, like the story grid analysis, is so helpful. The script for Ocean's 11 is a textbook example of meticulous planning.
Okay, so let's break down that timing. You mentioned clear act breaks.
Yes. The script is structured to keep the audience off balance while maintaining a logical trajectory. The act breaks. The points where the central conflict is significantly raised or redirected, they hit right around 25% and 75% of the runtime.
And at the start, Danny has two interwoven objectives.
Right. The A plot is the heist, and the B plot is winning back Tess.
And the B plot, the romantic tension, isn't just background noise. It's calculated to complicate the professional plan.
Totally. The B plot, Danny's desire to reclaim Tess from Benedict, it remains somewhat dormant, like a low hum of tension until about 38% into the film.
And at that point, it violently collides with the A plot.
Yes. When Rusty confronts Danny about Tess being the real motivation, it raises the stakes beyond just money and introduces immediate interpersonal risk to the entire professional operation.
And the midpoint, the great destabilizer, is timed perfectly, forcing the crew to pivot.
It hits at precisely 52% of the runtime. The initial plan relies heavily on hacking a weakness in the city's electrical grid.
Then.
The destabilizing midpoint occurs when Bashir Tarr, the explosives expert, reveals the city is fixing that weakness, rendering their entire original approach obsolete.
This forces the classic caper move, an immediate, high-pressure shift in strategy.
Which leads to the all is lost moment, which every great heist film requires, hitting around 75%.
And Soderbergh gives us the ultimate cinematic fake-out.
He does. The all is lost moment is a sequence where Danny, having been caught deliberately, is locked in the interrogation room with Terry Benedict.
The audience believes the entire operation has been compromised because their leader is captured.
But in reality, it's a planned misdirection. Bruiser, their man inside, helps Danny climb through the ceiling, meaning Danny was never truly in danger. The crew used Danny's capture as a cover for the final stages of the real con.
And then the climax. From about 85% to 95% is the payoff.
That's where every piece of character expertise and every tool gathered throughout the movie comes together flawlessly.
It's the visual articulation of the entire plan.
It's a rapid-fire sequence of reveals where the team utilizes everything from the magnetron, the device they need after the grid repair, to Yen's contortionist skills. The structural integrity is what allows the film to feel so effortless.
The effort went into the blueprint, not the execution.
Precisely.
Let's talk more about those crucial team members, starting with the master of disguise, Saul Bloom, and the physical specialist, Yen.
Carl Reiner as Saul Bloom is just brilliant. He's the veteran con man brought out of retirement specifically for his ability to play a persona that carries absolute authority.
He plays Lyman Zerga,
the supposedly dying high-roller arms dealer. And Zerga's presence allows them to penetrate the most secure area of the casino under the guise of delivering a crucial high-value item.
Which, of course, are the explosives.
Right. And Saul is also essential for watching the security cameras during the execution.
And then there's the specialist who handles the physical breach. The amazing Yen, the grease man.
Yen, played by Kin Xiaobo, is the acrobat and contortionist. His short stature and flexibility are non-negotiable for the plan.
He gets inside the money carts.
Delivered by the Malloy brothers, sneaks through the internal backstage tunnels and places the explosives on the vault door. He's the physical key to the whole operation.
What's fascinating is that while he is crucial, he speaks almost entirely in Mandarin to the crew, who somehow all understand him.
It adds to the mystique of the crew. They are so close, they communicate almost instinctively.
But his few English lines are famous because they are consistently aggressively profane.
The one line most people remember from Ocean's 11 is Yen shouting, "Where the f you been?" when the Malloy brothers are delayed in transporting him.
Speaking of dialogue and on-screen presence, we absolutely must address the strange Hollywood anecdote involving Bashir Tarr, the explosives expert played by Don Cheadle.
This is one of those deeply strange behind-the-scenes stories that audiences still talk about. Don Cheadle, who plays the pivotal role of Bashir Tarr,
the magnetron specialist who has the midpoint crisis,
was bafflingly uncredited in Ocean's 11.
It's impossible to ignore. Bashir is integral to the team and visible throughout the film, clearly one of the named 11. Why was he missing from the credits?
While no one from the studio or Cheadle side has ever offered complete official confirmation of the exact details, it is widely reported that the omission was due to a billing disagreement.
Hollywood politics.
In Hollywood, billing order is everything. It determines status, pay, and contractual prestige. It's highly likely there was a contractual dispute over where his name would appear relative to the massive A-list stars like Clooney, Pitt, and Roberts.
It's a huge irony. The movie is all about the unseen hustle, and here was Cheadle doing the hustle on screen, yet having his status unseen in the credits.
It highlights the sometimes absurd priorities of the studio machine. The fact that he was fully credited in Ocean's 12 and Ocean's 13 suggests that the dispute was resolved and his importance to the team was finally properly acknowledged for the sequels.
Okay, let's pivot to what many believe is the true secret weapon, the element that defines the swagger and soul of the trilogy.
The music.
The soundtrack and score, primarily provided by David Holmes.
The music is what elevates these films beyond standard capers. Holmes was tasked with bridging a 40-year cultural gap. He couldn't ignore the inherent glamour and nostalgia of the Rat Pack era, but the sound had to feel contemporary and non-derivative.
So what musical alchemy did David Holmes invent to achieve this contemporary class?
He created this remarkable hybrid sound palette. It's a sophisticated melding of classic acoustic jazz instrumentation horns, upright bass, brushed drums, the sound you associate with the golden age of Vegas,
Right.
with modern electronic productions, specifically drum and bass grooves and psychedelic jazz breaks.
The result is music that has velocity and energy, but also an undeniable sense of class.
Precisely. It's sophisticated, but never stuffy. It provided the perfect backdrop for Soderbergh's kinetic, rapid-fire montages, especially those lengthy introductory sequences where we meet all 11 crew members.
The music keeps the momentum.
Holmes ensured that even when the camera was moving quickly through the exposition, the music provided a smooth, dramatic arc that prevented the scene from becoming dull or overloaded.
Can you give us a specific musical example of that instrumental blending?
Okay, consider the scene where Danny and Rusty are trying to convince Ruben Tishkoff to fund the operation. The music vamps on an E-flat blues scale pattern on the bass.
Right, I know the one.
It starts subtly, adding layers like shakers and bongos, slowly building tension, reflecting the risk Ruben is taking before the full horn ensemble finally sweeps in. That slow, controlled buildup is pure jazz, but the underlying rhythmic drive feels utterly modern.
And Holmes also used source music strategically to evoke specific feelings or eras.
Yes, he carefully selected tracks that served a precise thematic purpose. For instance, the high-energy, kinetic opening during the aerial script shots, the film's arrival moment, is scored by Elvis Presley's A Little Less Conversation.
Elvis is Vegas.
Exactly. And he's literally asking for a little less conversation, a little more action, please. It immediately injects energy and a retro-cool atmosphere into the plotting.
And then there's the emotional resolution of the entire film, which is achieved with a classical piece, completely transforming the meaning of the heist's success.
That's the most elegant touch. The triumphant end, where the crew stands watching the spectacular fountain show outside the Bellagio, is scored not by loud, victorious jazz, but by Claude Debussy's timeless piano piece, Clair de Lune.
It's a beautiful choice.
This sophisticated classical selection transforms the scene. It moves the success away from the domain of petty crime and into the realm of stylish, romantic triumph, confirming that this heist was about class and sophistication.
There's also that fascinating, subtle musical detail tied directly to Danny and Tess's conflicted relationship.
That's the use of Percy Faith's theme for young lovers. It's used to underscore the deep-seated conflict and lingering affection between them, particularly when Danny sees Tess in the restaurant early on and later during their tense conversation.
And there's a trick to the recording itself, isn't there?
Critically, the recording used is notably kept monophonic, meaning it sounds as if it's playing off an old single-speaker record player.
Why is that monophonic quality so important?
It gives the scene a sense of yearning and nostalgia. It evokes a feeling of their past love, something distant and almost physically recorded on an aging medium, contrasting sharply with their current high-conflict interactions.
And the song dramatically resolves only when Terry Benedict interrupts them.
Literally stopping the romantic moment, emphasizing Benedict's role as the disruptor of their emotional history. The music provides the emotional core that the stylized cinematography otherwise might not convey.
The success of the Soderbergh trilogy created this immense appetite for more, which led to the 2018 spin-off, Ocean's 8.
Right.
And this all-female version arrived during a significant cultural moment, giving the franchise an entirely new context.
It was timely, certainly. Produced by Soderbergh and Clooney, the film needed to navigate the cultural landscape, bringing in a new generation of star power while attempting to redefine the genre's gender dynamics.
The premise focuses on Debbie Ocean, played by Sandra Bullock.
And she's established as the sister of Danny Ocean.
Upon her release from prison after 5 years, mirroring her brother's initial entry into Ocean's 11, Debbie immediately assembles her own crew.
featuring Cate Blanchett, Anne Hathaway, Rihanna, and others. Their target is the legendary $150 million Cartier-Tussauds necklace to be stolen during the highly publicized Met Gala in New York.
The film did a good job of grounding itself in the original universe, maintaining continuity rather than just being a standalone reboot.
Absolutely. We see two key figures from the original trilogy pop up. Ruben Tishkoff, played by Elliot Gould, who offers advice and connections.
And Yen.
And Yen, the acrobat, who returns to assist Debbie's second-in-command, Lou, in a complex post-heist operation involving the crown jewels, ensuring the universes feel connected and operating in the same world.
And there's that major narrative detail that confirms the status of the previous leader.
Yes. Danny Ocean is explicitly stated to be dead. This allows Debbie to step fully into the leadership role without having her brother overshadow her.
But the film is deliberately ambiguous about the cause of his death.
A classic Hollywood maneuver, leaving that door slightly ajar for future narrative possibilities.
Okay, let's discuss the most important shift here. The thematic comparison between the motivations of the two Ocean leaders, Danny and Debbie.
Because it highlights a huge evolution in caper storytelling.
Right. Danny Ocean in Ocean's 11 was certainly driven by the $160 million, but his true primary motivation, the B plot that complicates everything, was reclaiming Tess.
The critical analysis confirms that in the traditional caper structure, Tess functions as a prize or object of desire, which Danny needed to win back to solidify his masculinity and sense of self after his time in jail.
But Debbie's motivation, while also tied to a massive cash prize, is intensely focused on something else entirely.
Debbie's secondary, secret motivation is pure revenge. She aims to ruin Claude Becker, the art dealer who framed her and landed her in prison.
And the contrast in how the respective crews react to their leader's secret motivation is perhaps the most telling aspect of the gender shift.
It's night and day. When Rusty discovered Danny's motivation was Tess, he was furious.
He threatened to walk off the job.
Because Danny violated the crew's ethical code. You don't risk multi-year prison sentences and jeopardizing the entire operation for a woman. Danny's motivation was seen as selfish and unprofessional.
But Debbie's revenge plot is celebrated.
When Debbie's crew discovers her secondary plot to ruin Becker, the reaction is the complete opposite. They not only accept it, but they laugh and congratulate her on successfully pulling off a personal act of vengeance against the man who betrayed her.
Her act is validated by her peers as justified and professional,
which signals a significant shift toward accepting and validating female-driven personal ambition, even if that ambition is rooted in vengeance.
This contrast also manifests in how the women are visually portrayed, specifically through costume and archetype.
They moved away from traditional female roles in heist films. Traditional capers often struggle with sexual objectification, and Ocean's 8 makes a deliberate choice to use wardrobe to emphasize versatility and professionalism over sexual appeal.
Especially in the supporting roles. Lou, for example, who mirrors Rusty's role as the second-in-command.
Lou, played by Cate Blanchett, is consistently styled in androgynous pantsuits, blazers, and vests. A sharp, rebellious, non-traditional look for a female lead.
And the specialists like Nineball and Constance?
Right. Nineball, the hacker, played by Rihanna, and Constance, the pickpocket, played by Awkwafina, are presented in non-sexualized functional attire. Baggy clothing, oversized sweatshirts, and construction boots.
It allows the audience to focus entirely on their skills and expertise rather than their appearance.
Exactly. While the ultimate prize, the diamond necklace, is a traditionally feminine object of desire, the team itself features women in roles typically reserved for men. The film successfully showcases a diverse range of female archetypes.
So the success of Ocean's 8 confirmed the franchise's commercial viability beyond the original male crew. Now we're looking ahead at two very distinct confirmed projects.
Right, continuing the universe.
Let's start with the potential Ocean's 14, the return of the older crew.
George Clooney, who remains closely tied to the franchise, has confirmed the sequel is in development. He stated that the concept is partially inspired by the 1970s comedy Going in Style,
which was about older gentlemen undertaking a final heist.
Exactly. And that immediately suggests a fascinating thematic shift from the high-octane swagger of the original trilogy.
It does. Clooney explained that the focus would be on the crew's limitations. The concept is based on the reality that they're now too old to do what we used to do.
But still smart enough to know how to get away with something.
So the narrative challenge becomes finding ways to work around their physical limitations, rather than relying on their physical prowess or speed.
Absolutely. The humor and ingenuity will come from watching these seasoned con artists apply decades of expertise to outwit high-tech security, perhaps while dealing with the realities of aging.
It replaces pure swagger with seasoned ingenuity.
Which should appeal to the audience's respect for the long con and the crew's combined expertise.
That's a great evolution for characters who have always prided themselves on being the smartest people in the room. Now let's discuss the second confirmed project, the prequel.
Currently just referred to as Oceans, set way back in 1962.
This project signifies a desire to return to that golden age aesthetic that Soderbergh initially wanted to tap into.
It's being developed by director Jay Roach and will star Margot Robbie, who is also producing. Early reporting suggested Ryan Gosling as her co-star, although Bradley Cooper has since been mentioned as a possible replacement.
And the original casting rumors suggested a direct line to the modern trilogy's family tree, too.
Yes, the early buzz was that Robbie and her co-star would be playing the parents of Danny and Debbie Ocean, teaching the young siblings the crucial skills, the art of stealing from the rich, that they later utilize.
That would create a powerful sense of generational continuity within the world of professional criminals.
And the thematic shift for this prequel is perhaps the most drastic, pulling the film away from high-tech heists entirely.
How so?
The film is described as aiming for an old-fashioned epic love story/adventure disguised as a heist. The director mentioned being inspired by classic, stylish Hitchcock films like To Catch a Thief and Notorious.
So less about the technical breakdown of the vault and more about the psychological warfare and the glamour of the chase.
Precisely. It's set against the extremely glamorous backdrop of the 1962 Monaco Grand Prix. This is a deliberate attempt to capture that high society, high-stakes glamour of the 60s without the low-stakes, off-the-cuff feel of the Rat Pack film.
So after tracking this entire journey, from the Rat Pack's casual charm to the meticulous Soderbergh machine and into the future, let's synthesize our central question.
Why are the Steven Soderbergh Oceans films a unique cinematic event that feels almost impossible to replicate today?
It really boils down to a specific and risky alignment of technical ambition, artistic control, and star commitment that it doesn't happen often in the contemporary risk-averse studio system.
Let's start with that unique directorial control.
Okay.
You had Steven Soderbergh acting as director, his own cinematographer under the name Peter Andrews, and his own editor as Marianne Bernard.
He infused a high-budget, $85 million studio picture with his highly experimental, independent art house sensibility.
The studio took a massive risk, allowing a director to operate with that degree of simultaneous technical control over a major blockbuster. It's almost unheard of.
And that control extended to the literal blueprint of the film.
Absolutely. The second factor is the meticulous, almost literary structure of the screenplay. It wasn't just a fun script, it was a rigorously conceived machine where the calculated twists, the precise act breaks, and the exact timing of the midpoint crisis were all locked into place.
It played out with effortless style, but the rigor beneath the surface was profound.
Then there's the atmosphere, defined by that non-mainstream sound.
David Holmes' sonic aesthetic.
Blending electronic drum in bass grooves with acoustic jazz instrumentation, it created a sound that was specific, stylishly modern, and nostalgically classy all at once.
It avoided the standard orchestral or rock music demanded by most modern blockbusters.
Which demonstrates a unique artistic vision that the studio had to trust.
And finally, the star power. I mean, getting that caliber of A-list talent to sign on to a project that was, beneath the surface, technically experimental, is a miracle today.
Stars today are often locked into highly branded multi-film contracts where the focus is on IP integrity. In the early 2000s, Soderbergh was able to command this massive ensemble who were willing to take secondary roles and participate in a director-driven vision.
Getting Clooney, Pitt, Damon, and Roberts to submit to that kind of controlled, stylized experiment is a rarity now.
So Steven Soderbergh's trilogy perfected the long con, and not just the characters deceiving Terry Benedict.
The film itself was a sophisticated hustle played on the audience and the studio system.
Precisely. It was a high-budget Hollywood blockbuster successfully masquerading as an experimental art house film. And that combination of massive commercial appeal delivered through deeply personalized and unconventional technical means. It might just be an impossible trick to pull off in today's calculated, brand-driven environment.
So for you, the listener, you should consider this. If a modern director was delivering a sequel to a $450 million hit today, Would any studio dare allow them to use their mother's and father's names as aliases for the editing and cinematography credits, thereby downplaying the official brand?
I think we both know the answer to that.
And the answer probably tells you everything you need to know about why this level of bespoke cinematic cool is now a museum piece.